SpaceX promises Mars cities by 2050, but the hidden price tag goes far beyond Elon's $10 trillion estimate. The real costs aren't just financial, they're reshaping Earth's economy, environment, and geopolitics right now. Most analysts focus on rocket fuel and habitats, but they're missing 5 critical cost categories that will fundamentally alter how our world works. Understanding these costs matters for your career and investment decisions in the next 25 years. The changes are already starting. The economic ripple effect, beyond rocket fuel. The thing is, Mars colonization isn't just about building rockets. It's about rebuilding Earth's entire industrial base to support interplanetary civilization. The economic ripple effects are already reshaping industries you might not expect. Start with Earthside infrastructure costs. SpaceX needs new launch facilities, manufacturing plants, and supply chains worth hundreds of billions. But here's what most people miss. Every major aerospace company is now scrambling to build Mars-capable infrastructure. Boeing, Blue Origin, even traditional defense contractors are retooling their factories. That's not SpaceX's budget. That's the entire economy pivoting. The labor market disruption is already happening. Engineers are leaving traditional industries in droves. Automotive, telecommunications, even medical device companies are losing their best talent to aerospace and supporting sectors. This brain drain drives up wages in space industries while creating talent shortages everywhere else. If you're in engineering or advanced manufacturing, you've probably felt this shift already. Now, let's talk about resource scarcity economics. Mars missions need rare earth metals, specialized alloys, and advanced composites in quantities that dwarf current production. When demand spikes but supply stays flat, prices explode. Lithium, titanium, carbon fiber, all seeing price pressure from space applications. This affects everything from your smartphone to your car battery. But here's where it gets really interesting. The financial system strain reveals a fundamental mismatch. Mars colonization requires multi-decade investments with uncertain returns. Wall Street operates on quarterly earnings reports. Traditional venture capital won't touch 25-year payback periods, so we're seeing entirely new financial instruments emerge. Space bonds, colonization funds, even cryptocurrency specifically designed for interplanetary commerce. Moving forward, consider the Apollo comparison. The moon landing cost about $280 billion in today's money over 8 years. Mars colonization estimates start at $10 trillion over 30 years. That's not just bigger, it's a different category of economic undertaking. Apollo employed 400,000 people at its peak. Mars will need millions. Which brings us to the hidden beneficiaries. Everyone focuses on SpaceX and rocket companies, but the real winners are industries that support Mars preparation. Mining companies developing asteroid extraction technology. Life support manufacturers scaling closed-loop systems. Even agriculture companies working on Martian farming techniques. These sectors are seeing investment flows that would have been unimaginable 5 years ago. The reality is that Mars economics create entirely new market categories. Take 3D printing. Sending tools to Mars costs thousands per kilogram, but sending the raw materials to print tools on Mars? That changes everything. Suddenly, additive manufacturing isn't just a nice-to-have technology, it's mission-critical infrastructure. What this means for you depends on your industry. If you're in traditional manufacturing, automation, or resource extraction, Mars demand is already affecting your market. If you're in finance, new asset classes are emerging around space commercialization. If you're in technology, the computational challenges of managing interplanetary supply chains are creating entirely new software categories. But here's the key insight most analysts miss. These economic changes aren't waiting for 2050, they're happening now. Every SpaceX launch test, every NASA Mars mission announcement, every Chinese space program milestone shifts capital allocation on Earth. Pension funds are already investing in space ETFs. Sovereign wealth funds are backing asteroid mining startups. The economic transformation is front-loading the costs. We're paying for Mars colonization through higher material prices, shifted labor markets, and redirected investment flows today. By the time the first permanent Mars settlement launches, Earth's economy will already be fundamentally different. That shift is key because it means the economic disruption isn't a future problem to solve. It's a current reality to navigate. The companies, careers, and investment strategies that thrive in the next 25 years will be those that understand how Mars' ambitions are reshaping Earth's economic foundations right now. The question isn't whether Mars colonization will transform our economy. The question is whether you're positioned to benefit from the transformation that's already underway. Environmental costs. Earth pays the price. Now here's where most people get uncomfortable. We talk about Mars as humanity's backup planet, but the environmental costs of getting there are accelerating damage to the planet we're supposedly backing up. Let's start with launch pollution reality. Each Starship flight burns roughly 1,000 tons of methane and liquid oxygen. That sounds clean compared to traditional rocket fuel. But here's the math that matters. SpaceX plans thousands of Mars missions over the next 30 years. We're talking about burning millions of tons of fuel just for the launches. But that's actually the smaller problem. The manufacturing footprint dwarfs launch emissions. Building Mars infrastructure before we even leave Earth requires massive industrial expansion. New factories for life support systems, habitat modules, solar panels, rated for Martian conditions. Each Mars habitat requires materials equivalent to building a small city on Earth. The carbon cost of manufacturing this infrastructure is enormous, and it's happening now. The resource extraction surge is where environmental damage really accelerates. Mars missions need materials that don't come from your local quarry. Rare earth mining for advanced electronics. Titanium extraction for lightweight structures. Lithium mining for massive battery systems. These operations devastate local ecosystems, and Mars demand is pushing extraction into previously untouched areas. Here's what environmental groups aren't talking about yet. Traditional mining operations could supply current demand with existing sites. But Mars-scale demand requires opening new mines, often in environmentally sensitive areas. The Democratic Republic of Congo is already seeing increased cobalt mining pressure. Chile's lithium extraction is expanding into protected desert regions. Australia's rare earth operations are scaling up in ways that would have been unthinkable without space applications driving demand. Which brings us to the orbital debris crisis. More Mars traffic means more rockets, more satellites, more space infrastructure. Every launch increases the risk of collisions that create thousands of debris pieces. This isn't just a space problem. When debris cascades destroy Earth's satellite networks, we lose GPS, weather monitoring, and global communications. The environmental monitoring systems we need to track climate change depend on satellites that Mars traffic puts at risk. Moving to planetary protection concerns, we're facing contamination risks that could compromise both worlds. Earth microbes traveling to Mars could destroy any existing Martian life before we discover it. But the reverse risk is equally serious. Mars samples returning to Earth could carry unknown pathogens that Earth's biosphere has no defense against. The protocols for preventing contamination require massive sterilization facilities and containment systems, each with their own environmental footprint. But here's the irony that keeps me up at night. We're justifying environmental damage on Earth by saying we need Mars as a backup planet. Strip mining for Mars habitats, burning massive amounts of fuel for Mars launches, destroying Earth's orbital environment to build Mars infrastructure. We're accelerating the very problems that make Mars colonization seem necessary. The timeline makes this worse. Climate change impacts are happening now, but Mars colonies won't be self-sustaining for decades. So we're sacrificing Earth's environment today for a Mars backup that won't exist until tomorrow. It's like burning down your house to build materials for a shelter you might finish next year. The reality is that every environmental cost of Mars colonization hits Earth first. The mining damage, the manufacturing emissions, the launch pollution, it's all happening on the planet we're trying to preserve. Mars colonization isn't reducing Earth's environmental burden. It's multiplying it. What this means practically is that environmental regulations around space activities are about to get much stricter. Carbon pricing will affect launch costs. Mining restrictions will impact Mars material supply chains. Orbital debris regulations will limit launch windows. Environmental opposition to Mars programs is growing as the costs become visible. The environmental price of Mars isn't theoretical. It's accumulating in Earth's atmosphere, Earth's ecosystems, and Earth's orbital space right now. Understanding this helps you anticipate the regulatory and economic changes coming as environmental costs become impossible to ignore. Geopolitical reshuffling, the new space race. The environmental costs are just the beginning. Mars colonization is triggering a geopolitical reshuffling that's destabilizing international relations faster than most analysts realize. China's response strategy reveals how Mars ambitions are accelerating military space programs globally. Beijing isn't just building rockets to compete with SpaceX. They're treating Mars colonization as a national security issue. The Chinese space program has tripled its budget since SpaceX announced Mars timelines. But here's what's really happening. They're developing dual-use technologies that work for both Mars missions and military applications. Chinese Mars rovers aren't just scientific instruments. They're testing navigation systems that could guide military satellites. Chinese Mars habitat research isn't just about life support. It's developing closed-loop systems for military bases in hostile environments. Every Chinese Mars technology has a terrestrial military application, and the Pentagon knows it. This is forcing the United States into a space arms race, disguised as a colonization race. NASA's budget increases aren't just about beating China to Mars. They're about preventing China from controlling Mars critical technologies that could shift military balance on Earth. The Space Force isn't just protecting satellites anymore. They're preparing for conflicts over Mars access routes and Martian resource claims. But here's where it gets really complicated. Resource claim conflicts are destabilizing Earth treaties in ways nobody anticipated. Who owns Mars minerals? Current space law says no nation can claim celestial bodies, but that law was written for flags and footprints, not permanent settlements and industrial mining. When SpaceX establishes the first Mars mining operation, do those resources belong to the United States, to SpaceX shareholders, to all humanity? China argues for international resource sharing. Russia wants territorial claims based on landing sites. The European Union is pushing for regulated extraction zones. These aren't academic debates. They're creating real diplomatic tensions right now. The technology export control situation is escalating rapidly. Mars technologies are becoming national security assets, which limits international cooperation. Advanced life support systems, radiation shielding, closed-loop manufacturing, these technologies have obvious military applications. So governments are classifying Mars research and restricting technology sharing with potential adversaries. This creates a paradox. Mars colonization requires international cooperation to succeed, but Mars technologies are too sensitive for international cooperation. The result is parallel Mars programs that don't share critical innovations. That makes Mars colonization slower, more expensive, and more dangerous for everyone. Which brings us to dependency vulnerabilities. Mars colonies will need Earth resources for decades. Food, medicine, replacement parts, even people, all coming from Earth on predictable schedules. But what happens when Mars colonies need Earth resources during geopolitical tensions? Imagine a Mars colony populated primarily by American and European settlers, but dependent on Chinese rare earth metals for life support systems. Or a Chinese Mars base that needs American semiconductors for communication systems during a trade war. These dependency relationships create new pressure points for international conflicts. The space governance vacuum makes everything worse. Current international law is completely inadequate for Mars colonization realities. The Outer Space Treaty was signed in 1967 for a world where space meant orbit, not permanent settlement. There's no legal framework for Mars property rights, resource extraction, environmental protection, or conflict resolution. New institutions are forming to fill this vacuum, but they're not inclusive. The Artemis Accords create one set of rules for American allies. China's Belt and Road Initiative is extending into space with different rules for Chinese partners. Russia is developing its own space governance framework with yet another set of rules. Alliance formations are reshuffling around Mars access, and it's excluding traditional allies in unexpected ways. Countries with advanced space capabilities are prioritizing Mars partnerships over historical relationships. India is working more closely with the United States on Mars technology than with Russia, despite decades of Russian space cooperation. Japan is distancing itself from European space programs to focus on American Mars initiatives. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. Countries without space programs are becoming kingmakers. Nations with critical Mars resources, lithium in Chile, rare earths in Africa, titanium in Australia, suddenly have geopolitical leverage they've never had before. These resource-rich countries are playing space powers against each other, demanding technology transfers and partnership deals in exchange for Mars critical materials. The result is a complete reshuffling of international relationships based on Mars utility rather than historical alliances. Traditional diplomatic priorities are being subordinated to space access considerations. Trade deals include Mars technology clauses. Defense agreements cover space resource protection. Immigration policies favor aerospace engineers and planetary scientists. What this means for global stability is concerning. Mars colonization is creating new sources of international tension while undermining existing cooperation mechanisms. The technologies needed for Mars are too valuable to share freely, but too complex to develop in isolation. The resources needed for Mars are too scarce to allocate fairly, but too critical to secure through conflict. The timeline pressure makes diplomatic solutions harder. Mars launch windows occur every 26 months. Missing a launch window means waiting over 2 years for the next opportunity. This creates artificial urgency that forces governments into hasty decisions about resource allocation, technology sharing, and territorial claims. Human and ethical costs, the price of pioneering. Now let's talk about the human costs that nobody wants to calculate. Mars colonization isn't just reshaping economies and environments. It's fundamentally altering human relationships and social structures in ways we're only beginning to understand. The psychological toll on Earth starts with families separated by 26-month communication cycles and permanent migration. Unlike historical migration, Mars colonists can't come home for holidays or family emergencies. Communication delays mean real-time conversations become impossible. A Mars colonist asking about a sick parent on Earth waits up to 24 minutes for a response. But here's what makes this different from any previous human migration. Historical pioneers could send letters home and receive replies within months. Mars colonists face communication delays that make maintaining Earth relationships psychologically impossible. The human brain isn't designed for relationships with 48-minute conversation delays. This creates a new category of psychological trauma, interplanetary separation anxiety. Families on Earth grieving children who are alive but unreachable. Mars colonists experiencing isolation that no human in history has faced. Mental health professionals are already developing new therapeutic frameworks for interplanetary relationship management, but we're treating conditions that have never existed before. Selection bias consequences reveal how Mars colonies will be populated by the wealthy and technically skilled, leaving Earth behind. Mars colonization requires enormous personal financial investment, advanced technical skills, and perfect physical health. The selection criteria automatically exclude most of humanity based on economics, education, and genetics. This isn't accidental. Mars colonies need people who can maintain complex life support systems, repair advanced equipment, and make critical decisions under extreme stress. But the result is that Mars becomes populated by Earth's most capable and wealthy individuals, while Earth loses its most talented people to an unreachable planet. The medical unknowns add another layer of ethical complexity. Long-term health effects of Mars, gravity, and radiation exposure on human development are completely unknown. Mars gravity is 38% of Earth gravity. Children born on Mars will develop different bone density, muscle mass, and cardiovascular systems. They may never be able to visit Earth without life-threatening health complications. Radiation exposure on Mars is 100 times higher than on Earth. We don't know how this affects human reproduction, child development, or long-term cancer rates. Mars colonists are essentially volunteering for a multi-generational medical experiment with no control group and no way to reverse the effects. Cultural preservation challenges emerge as Earth cultures struggle to survive when the best and brightest leave permanently. Languages, traditions, and knowledge systems that took centuries to develop could disappear within decades if their most educated practitioners migrate to Mars. But here's the deeper problem. Mars colonies will develop their own cultures adapted to Martian conditions. These cultures will diverge from Earth cultures in ways that make reunion impossible. Mars children will grow up with different values, different priorities, and different relationships to risk and survival. They'll be human, but they won't be Earth human. Ethical questions around terraforming raise moral implications of reshaping an entire planet. If Mars has existing life, even microbial life, terraforming amounts to planetary genocide. We're discussing the deliberate extinction of an entire planet's biosphere to make room for human settlement. Even if Mars is sterile, terraforming raises questions about humanity's right to reshape entire worlds. Do we have the moral authority to alter planetary atmospheres, redirect water flows, and introduce Earth species to alien environments? These decisions affect not just current Mars colonists, but every future generation on both planets. The social stratification issue reveals Mars as the ultimate gated community for Earth's elite. Mars colonies require enormous resources to maintain. Only the wealthiest individuals and most powerful governments can afford Mars access. This creates a literal upper class, humans who live above Earth, while everyone else remains below. But unlike traditional elite communities, Mars separation is permanent and absolute. Wealthy people on Earth can still interact with broader society. Mars elites are completely isolated from the populations they leave behind. This creates unprecedented social stratification based on planetary residence. The ethical implications extend beyond individual choice. When Earth's most capable people leave for Mars, they take with them the knowledge, skills, and resources needed to solve Earth's problems. Climate change, poverty, disease. These challenges become harder to address when the people most capable of solving them have migrated to another planet. What this means for human civilization is profound. We're creating a permanent division of humanity into Earth-bound and Mars-bound populations. These populations will diverge genetically, culturally, and psychologically over time. We're not just colonizing Mars, we're splitting humanity into separate species. The timeline reality makes these ethical questions urgent. The first permanent Mars colonists are already being selected. The psychological, medical, and social consequences of their decisions will affect human civilization for centuries. But we're making these civilization-altering choices based on incomplete information and untested assumptions about human adaptability to interplanetary life. What this means for 2050. The reality is that Mars colonization costs extend far beyond SpaceX's budget into fundamental reshaping of Earth's systems. We're not just paying for rockets and habitats. We're paying through economic disruption, environmental degradation, geopolitical instability, and permanent human separation. But here's the timeline reality that changes everything. These costs are accumulating now, not waiting until 2050. Every Mars mission announcement shifts labor markets today. Every rare Earth mining expansion for space applications damages Earth's environment today. Every space technology export restriction destabilizes international cooperation today. Understanding these hidden costs helps you navigate the economic and social changes ahead. If you're planning a career, consider how Mars demand affects your industry. If you're making investment decisions, factor in the geopolitical risks of space resource competition. If you're thinking about the future, recognize that Mars colonization is reshaping human civilization right now. The transformation is already underway. The question is whether you're prepared for it. If you found this analysis useful, subscribe for more insights on how space ambitions reshape Earth's future.